Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the Eyes is Watching channel. More PSYOPs, people. Problem, reaction, Jewish solution. Okay, that's what we're dealing with right now. Demonic solution after demonic solution. We got the most scrambled, jumbled shooting in the history of shootings. Wait till you hear how twisted this one is. And what's even more twisted is they had the solution ready to go beforehand. Kind of like the poison death shots they had stored in warehouses ready to go. They just needed a pandemic to get the green light to poison people. PSYOP season is officially from July to October, it seems, okay? That's the window of PSYOP season. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled the alien card soon, because now we see endless experts, scientists saying that an alien mothership is going to be here by November, okay? This is absolutely hilarious. This is how bad the pedos don't want to be exposed. They're now saying aliens are coming. They're going to be here in November. Remember when the government would laugh at the idea of UFOs? Now they're saying alien invasion is imminent. November, aliens are coming, okay? And to think all of this is because the debt money system is coming to an end. Because this is what it's really all about, you know. They want people confused in a daze, mass poisonings taking place to weaken people's bodies and even kill off as many as they can so that when the big crash happens, and it will, people will be too weak to fight back. You see, COVID was the perfect psychological operation because it gave those in power justification to crush small businesses, transfer all the wealth to the already rich parasitic elite, and poison people with graphene nanotech that hooks their brains up to 5G. What a coinkydink. Everything just so happens to come together so perfectly. So while people are arguing over transgender man-benders and the life of the person who pulled the trigger, the real trigger's already being pulled, and it wasn't a gun. It was on the economy. So much chaos taking place that when this chart dropped right here on August 25th, 2025, nobody even noticed. Because just 2 days later on August 27, a satanic tranny demon shot up a Catholic mass. Here's the real headline here. The economy is mathematically finished. Okay, this is guaranteed, not doom and gloom stuff. Look at this chart. The blue line right here is a Frankenstein mashup of every major valuation metric from PE ratios, price to sales, Q ratio, market cap to GDP, you name it. The higher it goes, the more overvalued the market is compared to its own history. And right now, that line isn't just high, it's screaming off the chart. Higher than 1929 before the Great Depression happened. Higher than 1999 before the dot-com crash. Higher than 2008 before the housing implosion. We are literally at the most expensive stock market in American history. Translation, a major economic collapse isn't a maybe, it's mathematically guaranteed. The white line shows the S&P 500. Every time valuations spiked, the crash followed. People lost everything in 1929. They got a lost decade in the 70s, and then people ate dirt in the 2000s as well, as seen here. And today, the numbers are worse. Way, way worse. So when I say the real trigger has already been pulled, I mean it. The crash isn't coming out of nowhere, it's mathematically guaranteed. The only mystery left is whether they let it all fall like a guillotine or bleed it out slowly with inflation and stagflation. Either way, it's collapse by design. Okay, so yes, they need an alien invasion or maybe a new world war, because this is getting bad. And wouldn't you know it, the people in charge aren't slamming the brakes, they're flooring it. COVID was the demolition crew. Small businesses destroyed, middle class completely annihilated, trillions siphoned upward. Now they're hyping up the Mark of the Beast upgrade, okay? Saying they got a solution for you, don't worry, you know, pitching mRNA shots like a software patch for your flesh while the financial system rots from within. Yeah, the same guy who praised mRNA for its ability to turn people into butterflies is now hyped about rewriting your body like code. And if your body is programmable, that means somebody owns the code, and it isn't you. These freaks don't see humans as souls. They see us as hardware waiting to be patched, upgraded, and remotely managed. Your blood is their platform now. Your DNA just lines of code waiting to be edited, as if your God-given body has inherent problems with it. And it's not just Elon Musk. This is the broader technocratic cult talking. Yuval Noah Harari already told you the era of free will is over. Humans are now hackable animals, and he said it with pride. They aren't warning you, they're announcing it. The quiet part out loud. The vaccines were the test run. Trojan horse software disguised as medicine. You get it into people's bloodstream under the pretense of saving grandma, and suddenly they got your body like an operating system, which means it's upgradable, modifiable, and even trackable. And you can bet your last CBDC token they're not stopping at just health. Elon Musk is now replying to people on Twitter saying it's not going to be universal basic income. It's going to be universal high income. Okay, he's making it sound cool, this new mark of the beast system when the economy crashes. Like, he's acting like you're going to get a free house and Cybertruck as long as you accept the agenda, okay? Accept the universal high income. Because people are saying, why are you doing this? You know automation is going to replace all humans. How are humans going to eat? Well, there is a system in place. I mean, Yuval Noah Harari, Trump, Elon Musk, they all know it. They have the system in place, and they're bragging that the system is working in China. I mean, this is unbelievable. Elon Musk, the same guy who's praising China's WeChat, social credit score, digital ID system, is now funding that same infrastructure here. And when they say UBI, they really mean universal biometric integration, where your biology is just another endpoint on the network. Brain chips, gene editors, digital ID, and social credit all bundled into one sleek, efficient control panel. And wouldn't you know it, Yuval Noah Harari is saying social credit scores are actually a great thing. It could keep people in line, acting accordingly.
When you think about traditional money, gold coins, dollars, even bitcoins, they give value only to specific parts of human reality.
Right.
Some things you do, like you work, you gain money, you want to buy airline ticket, you pay money, but other things, you go visit your friends, you go visit your grandmother, even you throw trash in the street. This is no monetary value. The idea of the social credit is to monetize everything, to give value to every single thing you do in life.
Oh, would you look at that?
And this is your score. So even things that traditionally were not about money, they're about reputation or status. Suddenly you get precise points for them. And also anything you want to do, you need to use your social credit for it. So again, it has positive potential in some regards. It could create the most totalitarian, again, systems in history, where anything you do impacts your ability to get a job, to gain a loan, to travel. And in a way, you see this not only in China, you see it all over the world, also in the US. This because it's a function of surveillance. That traditionally only some areas of life were monitored and surveyed. And even in dictatorships, there was privacy. If you live in the Soviet Union, so the KGB can't follow you around all the time. They just don't have enough agents.
Right. They tried,
and
but they
can't. They try, but you have 200 million Soviet citizens. They don't have 200 million agents. Now, you can monitor everybody all the time. You don't need human agents or analysts. You have the computers, smartphones, cameras, drones, microphones everywhere. And
there
you have
it.
the AIs analyzing all the ocean of information. So this creates the potential for total surveillance. And it can take the form of the social credit system.
Yuval Noah Harari just admitted the most totalitarian systems in history are doing this. And he's saying it could be a positive thing if done right. This person says it's not about positive potential, it's about ultimate control. And he's absolutely correct. And it's crazy that they're trying to roll this whole system out after this shooting, especially. Whitney Webb did say, I've warned about the pre-crime push to stop mass shootings before they happen for years, especially during the first Trump administration. I don't think it's a coincidence that this happens just as the full extent of the Epstein-Thiel Carbine 911 relationship is being revealed. I wrote about Epstein, Thiel, and Carbine, as well as Trump's previous pre-crime push after a spate of 2019 mass shootings, when then Attorney General William Barr, who launched a DOJ pre-crime program called DEEP, seemed to predict in an odd speech together in the same article. So they want a system where just one glitch, you're flagged. One opinion will enjoy your system suspension. This is worldwide Zionist control. Call it technocratic communism, corporate fascism, cartel capitalism, whatever flavor you like. It's all under the same beast system. Total centralization of power where the illusion of left and right is just marketing. The demons in charge see the population of the world like cattle. And look at what they're actually doing to cattle now. This is how you know what their plans are for us, okay? Farmers have been strapping VR headsets onto cows to trick them into thinking they're outside in green fields, just to squeeze more milk out of them. Classical music in the background, fake scenery on the screen. The cow thinks it's free while it's chained up in a stall. Production went from 22 liters to 27, so it shows that this VR system works on cows. That's the future right there, okay? A lab-tested illusion of freedom, designed to make you produce more while you're locked in the pod. Remember Bill Gates' patent 666? For a body crypto mining system where your body itself produces a cryptocurrency somehow? Isn't this all tying together that yes, they need a few humans left to mine some digital currency? And if this is what they're doing to cows, what do you think they've got planned for humans? I mean, Yuval Noah Harari has said it. The biggest question will be what to do with all these useless people. The problem will be boredom. Yeah, in your pod in those government subsidized buildings, and they're wondering what are they going to do with all these humans and how will they find some sense of meaning in life when we impose this system? Well, Yuval Noah Harari's best guess was a combination of drugs and computer games. They see humans like cattle, and the fact they're already using virtual reality headsets on cattle to make them think they're outside should tell you all you need to know. Okay, and Trump's not fighting against this new system either. Instead, he's like driving the getaway truck. He just casually admitted he's nationalizing Intel. You heard that right, turning a private chip manufacturer into a government-owned asset. And when someone called him out for doing exactly what he once accused Kamala of, his answer was basically, shut up. This is the new way of doing things now. What that really means is the line between government and corporation is now gone. The same system that used to call itself capitalist now takes your tax dollars and buys up controlling stakes in monopolies. This ain't capitalism anymore, baby. This is the government just handing your money over to mega corporations to build the system that's going to enslave you. They're not building roads or fixing the infrastructure. They're wiring your future prison. Big Pharma, Palantir, defense contractors, your money is going to all of them. We're watching in real time the merger of the state and a bunch of captured corrupt companies, and they're using your money to build your cage. The line between government and corporation doesn't exist anymore. The same people screaming about capitalism are now using your tax dollars to buy pieces of the same monopolies that are locking you into a digital slavery state. They're not fixing roads or infrastructure, okay? They're handing your money to Pfizer and Palantir. Intel got $9 billion. Trump still got on social media and said they paid zero, bragging about it, It's not capitalism, it's the government funding the corporations that control you. Now that Dogecoin flopped, Musk's just another puppet, and Tesla's on a government leash. Trump calls it investment, but it's theft. They take your money, buy shares, then act like you owe them something for it. Trump is rolling out Palantir, a system that follows you everywhere. It pulls your texts, your calls, your health files, your taxes, even your social security info, and runs it through AI to guess what you might do next. And who ends up under the spotlight? Not Epstein's rich friends. No, all this system will not be used against those kind of criminals. Not the government crooks. Not the parasitic bankers wrecking the country. It's for regular people. like me and you. Folks who post the wrong thing online or show up to protests. The real criminals write the rules, and the rules say you're the problem. They are accelerating the collapse with every manufactured emergency, every single crisis. COVID, climate change, war, inflation is just a clearing of the ground underneath you just so they can build back up with this digital ID prison. Your money is going into the tools that will track you, jab you, and shut you out of society. Build back better to Big Beautiful Bill. Different face, same exact agenda playing out. And now the Pentagon already said it out loud. They're looking at buying stakes in Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Palantir. This is unbelievable. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick went on CNBC and said Lockheed gets 97% of its revenue from the government. And instead of asking how that's a problem, they're asking, why don't we just own them? The Pentagon already hands them billions of dollars for endless wars. Now they want to cut out of the chaos. Yeah, what can go wrong? And it's not just weapons. Trump used $9 billion of public money to buy 10% of Intel and bragged that America fully owns and controls part of it. That's insane. Weeks before that, he wanted the CEO fired. Then they met, and suddenly there's a deal. That's not capitalism. That's the state buying up the companies it uses to control you. And why is this bad? Well, let's look at a scenario here of what could happen. Okay, Intel, for example, could drop a new generation of chips with built-in surveillance at the hardware level. Maybe it starts tracking what you're posting or tracks your eye movements, who knows, or locks down access unless you scan your biometric ID. If the government owns part of Intel, do you think they're going to block it? No, they'll green light it, promote it, then force every agency and school and hospital to use it because now they profit off it. What used to be a watchdog becomes the pimp. And don't think they'll stop there. Intel starts building AI chips for broader control, facial recognition, vaccine passports, you name it, all powered by the same infrastructure you helped fund with your taxes. So now you're paying to build the tools that will replace you, track you, and shut you out of society if you step out of line. The merging of state and corrupt companies and also the merging of big tech and big tyranny is taking place. You're not just a consumer anymore, you're the product, the target, and the bill payer. Isn't it fun when you fund your own slavery? And the worst part of all is they're calling it national security. Yeah, selling you out to Palantir and Intel is somehow patriotic. All of this is especially worrying considering Trump is openly drafting reaction forces, National Guards on standby in Alabama and Arizona, ready to drop into any city in an hour, fully armed, fully geared, waiting for the day Americans finally push back against the cage. And on top of that, he wants it written into law that if you burn an American flag, you get 1 year in prison. Wrap your head around that. The guy selling himself as Mr. Freedom is literally building paramilitary shock troops and outlawing future protests. Tell me that ain't a communist state right there, okay? And CNBC didn't just mention Lockheed Martin, they mentioned Palantir too. In quote, "We use Palantir services, why not own a piece of Palantir?" So now the surveillance Skynet company that already feeds your data to the Pentagon is being discussed in the same breath as bomb makers, weapons manufacturers. The merger of Silicon Valley spyware and the military-industrial complex isn't even a conspiracy anymore. They're putting it on cable news at breakfast time. Even some Republicans are choking on this. Rand Paul said if socialism is government owning the means of production, then Trump buying into Intel is a step towards socialism. That's the irony here. The same crew that screams about socialism when you want healthcare is now cheerleading socialism for war corporations. Not socialism for you, not socialism for the poor, socialism for Lockheed Martin. The crazy part is it isn't just about foreign wars or big defense contracts. Remember when Comcast suddenly announced your Wi-Fi router can track your movements around the house? No camera, no microphone, just waves bouncing off your body like a digital sonar. They rolled it out as Wi-Fi Motion, a nice cute little name for turning your printer and smart TV into a full-time motion detector. The crazy part is that system runs through Databricks, and Databricks just so happened to be partnered with Palantir. That's how sneaky it's gotten. You don't even have to sign a contract with Palantir anymore. Their software slips in through the back door of your everyday tech. So when CNBC casually groups Palantir with defense contractors, it's not theory. This is confirmation right here. The same company that ran battlefield tracking in Gaza is now 1 degree from watching you pace to the fridge at 2 a.m. And they call it convenience. I call it the foundations of a domestic surveillance grid. And Trump is the perfect Trojan horse, walking it straight through the government databases through this idea of efficiency, this department of efficiency, consolidating power while the base cheers. What do you think happens when those Palantir-powered systems start linking router motion data, phone biometrics, and government records into one predictive AI dragnet? You guessed it, pre-crime isn't sci-fi anymore. The war on terror will go local. Everyone's a suspect. And wait till you hear what they're already rolling out after this mass shooting in Minneapolis. I'll cover that a little bit later. So on top of the demonic elite wanting total control of your mind, body, and soul, they also want to make a quick buck in the process. Did I get that right? Eisenhower once warned about the military-industrial complex in that speech. Does anyone remember that speech? Well, even he couldn't have predicted it would turn into the military financial surveillance complex. Lockheed Martin, Palantir, and Intel all fused with government until you can't even tell who's in charge anymore. And when you throw in Trump's reaction forces, speech policing laws, and foreign policy run out of Tel Aviv, you don't get America first, you basically get America last. And Lutnick even admitted it's a monstrous discussion about defense, in quotes. And he's right. It is monstrous. Because once the referees are also the players, war stops being about defense and turns into only profit. Doesn't this just expose that war was always about profit right here? That every war for the past, 100 years or so have just been about money, control, and demonic human sacrifice for the satanic elite, like a worldwide Colosseum battle. And just when you think we already hit Clown World climax a while back, oh, it gets way worse, baby. Stay tuned. Trump gets on stage and brags about slapping tariffs on China, so the jobs come roaring back to America, end quote. I mean, that was a great soundbite, I must say. The kind of thing that makes the MAGA sheeples cheer and chant, USA, USA. But in the next breath, he admits automation is going to replace most of those jobs anyway. So which is it? Is Trump bringing factory jobs back, or is he just setting up robot warehouses? And right as people's heads start spinning from that contradiction, he tosses out this gem right here. He then brags about bringing 600,000 Chinese students. That number again, right? It's always a 6. Because in his words, it's very insulting not to let them in. So just to let everyone know here, many of these students have been actually charged for being spies. That's not a joke. I mean, for example, Chinese University of Texas research student Yunhai Li charged for espionage, theft, and trade secrets. And Trump himself even admitted it. He said if he expelled those 600,000 Chinese students, our university system would go to hell, end quote. Think about that. He's confessing that American universities can't even function without foreign students coming in. In other words, Beijing basically holds a choke collar around US research and education. How is that for dependency? Okay, that level of dependency is what? Okay, and if the whole US university system would collapse without Chinese students, then maybe it deserves to collapse. Maybe it needs to go to hell, because at that point, it's not even an education system for Americans anymore. It's a pay-to-play scam where foreign money buys the curriculum, professors, and entire departments. And if China can do it, imagine Israel. I mean, you funnel enough money into Ivy Leagues and suddenly the whole curriculum is written to serve their agenda. That's why students are being brainwashed with transgender ideology, feminist movements, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and even Trans Tifa. This is why university is basically a straight up communist indoctrination camp. It's why the history books don't line up with reality, okay? Especially when it comes to what really happened during World War II. Okay, you understand the whole curriculum, who's funding it, and why Trump would say something like that. Why is foreign influence controlling universities like this? And without them, it would go to hell? The system isn't about truth, okay? It's about whoever cuts the biggest check. And they get to decide what your kids are allowed to think. Imagine calling that garbage education. No, it's clearly mass brainwashing. Trump says not letting Chinese students in is insulting. Insulting to who? Not the kids drowning in debt here who can't even afford college in their own country. Definitely not the laid off steel workers he promised to put back in the mills. No, the insult is to Beijing. Because now the US is subsidizing foreign grad students to walk into their research labs and treat the Pentagon sandbox like it's a group project. Universities run on defense contracts, so every Chinese PhD in AI or quantum computing is basically a foreign intern for the war machine. And that's the point. It's not education, it's globalism, global integration. Trump is acting like he's just being generous, but it's obedience. Tel Aviv wants US tech supremacy linked to their war footing. Beijing wants access to the code and hardware, and Washington's happy to play both sides as long as the check's clear. The same guy who says he's protecting the border from migrants is simultaneously flying in an army of foreign engineers to replace your kids in the labs, hospitals, and startups. And if you dare complain, you're told you're the one being insulting. Laura Loomer tweets, I didn't vote for more Muslims than Chinese people to be imported to my country. Sorry, but these immigrants from communist countries and Sharia shitholes where child rape is legalized don't make America great. Please don't make America China. MAGA doesn't want more immigrants. Isn't this hilarious? I mean, the biggest Trump supporter in history is now turning on him. But let's give Laura Loomer, aka Laura Joomer, the Ultimate Fell For It Again award. That's right. Quick question, how long before tranny Joomer snaps and shoots up a Catholic school? Because you know she's taking those hormone pills. But as expected, I mean, the tariffs were always theater. Now we know. Automation is the real plan, and the students are just a cover. The real blueprint is a machine economy run by Zionist technocrats. America outsourced, America automated, America occupied, okay? Trump's base thought they were electing a nationalist, but judging by how much he loves China and Chinese students and their systems, and the Zionist freaks in charge of Israel, I guess he's really a commie at heart. People acting like Trump is playing tough on the world stage, but back home he's wiring up the police state brick by brick. Remember when he swore he'd shrink the IRS, blocked Biden's army of auditors, said government would get smaller? Now he's rehiring the same people he bragged about firing to push his one big, beautiful bill through. Isn't that hilarious? This is the same guy who's already added $10 trillion to the debt, a third of everything America owes, and somehow his base is cheering the tax man's comeback. Remember when he swore he dismantled the IRS? When in reality, he just fired American workers and filled the positions back up with H-1B visa holders. The same time the National Guard is being quietly positioned in 19 states, not just blue ones, but deep red strongholds like Texas, Florida, Idaho, and South Dakota. If this was really about crime and immigration, why put troops in places Trump supposedly dominates? The White House spelled it out for you. The Guard will assist law enforcement in quelling civil disturbances. Yeah, that sounds like preparation for total digital slavery. History shows what that means, okay? It means curfews, gun grabs, free speech crackdowns. Step 1, ban flag burning, for example. Step 2, ban dissent online. Step 3, ban opposition altogether. The war machine is more bloodthirsty than ever. I mean, buckle up, people, because first they buy into Intel. Now the government is basically wanting to own defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Palantir. You can tell they're setting the stage for a big battle here. And right as those deals go public, U.S. convoys start pulling out of air bases in Iraq and shifting north to Kurdistan. I mean, is that just a coincidence? Baghdad calls it a milestone, but many locals in the area are warning it opens the door to a confrontation between Iran and Israel. But if you put the pieces together from buying up defense contractors while repositioning troops out of central Iraq, that looks like regime change might be back on the table for Iran. They might really want to do this soon. Israel's itching for it. Washington's moving pieces around, and Trump just set it all up in a way where he can make a killing off the profits. And just look at this week alone. I mean, all of these stories about Iran right here. Iran is already threatening to pull out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty if snapback sanctions hit. A top Iranian advisor is warning Khamenei that we are not in a ceasefire, we are in a stage of war, and the next round could be the last. Australia just expelled Iran's ambassador and declared the IRGC a terrorist group over alleged arson attacks on Jewish centers. And Britain, France, and Germany went running to the UN to trigger snapback sanctions over Iran breaking the 2015 nuclear deal. That's not random. That's escalation from every angle, all in the same week. Tell me this doesn't look like the building up of something before the spark. But a message to my American brothers and sisters, okay? Never, under any circumstance, give your guns away. Give up your rights to bear arms, okay? No matter what staged event they pull or fear propaganda they push, if it happens, you will become Canada. And that's the last thing you want, okay? And remember, no matter how bad it gets there, at least you're not here in Canada, where you can be charged for assaulting a armed home intruder. You heard that right, people. Check this Clown World title out right here. I couldn't believe it when I read this. Ontario man charged with assault for allegedly injuring armed intruder in his home. Welcome to Canada, folks, where if someone breaks into your house to rape your wife and kill you, you better just smile and hold the door open, or you're the one that's going straight to prison, okay? I dare you to find me a better example of living in a collapsed commie shithole state, okay? And just to prove how upside down it really is up here, let's rewind to Trudeau himself a few years back, where he flat out said Canadians have no right to use a firearm for self-defense. That's right. In his world, you're supposed to let the intruder kill you politely while humming "Oh Canada." But here's the thing. The law actually says the opposite. Section 7 of the Charter guarantees security of the person, and Section 20 of the Firearms Act literally spells it out, that protecting your life is a valid reason to own and even carry a firearm. So technically, Canadians do have the right to armed self-defense. Yet the past transgender prime minister who hides behind a wall of armed guards himself tells you that you can't, that your life isn't worth protecting the way his is. If that doesn't tell you where Canada is at, I don't know what does, okay? And it's not just in Canada. Look at the insanity around the world right now. I just can't believe it. I can't wrap my head around some of these stories. The story of 27-year-old Destiny Mary DeCiccio, hopefully I'm saying her last name right, who has the distinct dishonor of being the first person charged under Florida's new anti-Semitism law. Her crime was disorderly conduct, uttering an illegal opinion. That's the charge, okay? She now faces a mandatory 30 days in jail with 10 on work duty, all for speaking words the state didn't approve of. So much for land of the free, right? Seriously, I thought America was a lot better than here, but I can't believe people are being jailed there now for anti-Semitism. And in the UK, this is the worst case of all. I can't stand this case. This is one that makes my blood boil and makes me want to just lose it, okay? I got a few words to say on here that I got to edit out. That's how bad it is, okay? When I heard the story of Lucy Connolly, a mother who posted a tweet after the Southport stabbings and deleted it a few hours later and apologized, admitting she went too far, and still got a 31-month prison sentence. You heard that right. She served over a year in prison before she was released. Her husband flat out said she wasn't a racist. She was a grieving mother who snapped. I mean, who wouldn't? After hearing a story of 3 children stabbed over 70 times by some Somalian animal. But none of that mattered. She didn't bow down and STFU, so the state threw her in prison. So you see the pattern here? Doesn't matter if it's Canada, America, or Britain. Suddenly everyone, all these government demonic demonic reptiles are on the same page here. The West's so-called free democracies are rolling out speech crime laws at the same time, as if someone handed them a script. And funny enough, Klaus Schwab already told us a line. I mean, a few years back, he said they're going to start really cracking down on misinformation and dissenters of the New World Order. He said that out loud, and guess what's happening now, okay? And right on time, we see these arrests start happening. This isn't random, people. It's coordinated. You don't get 3 different countries all redefining justice at the exact same time unless it's part of the plan. They don't even hide it anymore because the plan is global and free speech is the first thing on the chopping block. They will first come after the guns, and if they are successful, they will start throwing you in prison for what they call mean words or anti-Semitism. Look at Canada and Britain, okay? People are doing years in prison for mean tweets. They will do everything in their power to disarm the citizens first. That being said, okay, another mass shooting in quotes took place, this time in Minneapolis at the Annunciation Catholic Church and school during morning mass. I mean, shots ripped through the windows from outside. News reports say 2 children were killed and 17 more wounded. Media reports that a 23-year-old trans shooter was behind it. This tranny then took its own life, allegedly, inside the church, while CNN says, we may never know why she did this, end quote. And before the wax even cools on the candles, the PSYOP narratives get pushed. I've never seen so many boxes checked in a shooting before. This might be the first one, okay? Random labels just shot at you like a chain gun with circulating clips and screenshots of weapons and notebooks plastered in every trigger phrase of the decade. Anti-Israel lines here and anti-Trump jabs there with edgy Holocaust references and some satanic scribbles, for the extra shock value. Even a printer paper Jesus target for the blasphemy crowd too. Yeah. And in one video, a magazine that says sponsored by BlackRock. Yeah, another shooter. Remember Thomas Crooks in the BlackRock funded video? And now this, which tells you what game we're playing here, because the story also insists the shooter hated Israel for bombing kids, yet somehow drove past every synagogue the kids saw, he saw, or she saw, or it's, I don't know what it is. Drove past political offices, even politicians' houses, and chose Catholic children at mass for vengeance against Jews. Even had Nuke India scribbled in his notebooks, but didn't kill any Zionists or Indians. Nope, he killed Catholic kids, allegedly. Clearly, this event had nothing to do with ideology. This wasn't justice, it was misdirection, because if it really was about rage or revenge, there were 100 other buildings in the city that made more sense. But no, he chose Catholic Mass. He chose children. This is the ultimate narrative fuel for every MSM network to take and run with, because this might be the most incoherent psyop ever. This is what you call contradiction theater. Sloppy on purpose, because the mess keeps every faction screaming in a different direction, while the part that's never messy slides into place. The policy part. Okay, that's the main thing here. Look at their solution. They already got the solutions for their demonic problems. Demonic problems, manufactured reaction, and demonic solution. Each one of these shootings is cranked up like a horror sequel, every scene bloodier than the last. And not because they've lost control, it's because fear is the tool. And what do you know? The Minnesota shooter's dad just so happened to work for the CIA and the DOD for 29 years. Yeah, kind of like Andrew Tate's father, Tucker Carlson's father, and Alex Jones' father, right? Pure coincidence, right? And the same week, the Vatican decides to roll out a LGBTQ plus rainbow crucifix vigil, turning a church into a stage play about inclusion, while Catholic kids are being buried because of a psychotic trans demon. Do you not see how every award show, from the Grammys to MTV, is promoting ritualistic garbage, satanic imagery, acting like it's art? Are we really surprised that people are getting brainwashed? This devil worship is literally choreographed in front of your children's faces. It's being taught to them in schools. And like I said, problem, reaction, solution. On one of the magazines, it says, suck on this, and also says, mashallah. And in his manifesto, he says he hates Arabs. So it's just messy on purpose. As you can see here, all of the Wordings on the magazines. Where is your God? 6 million wasn't enough. Kill Donald Trump. Why so curious? Things written in Russian. Kill Trump now. One of the magazines says for the children, followed by a laugh track. And just when you thought Epstein's ghost was done haunting us, his fingerprints show up all over this new surveillance state. Remember Carbine 911, the Israeli emergency call system bankrolled by Epstein? Ehud Barak and Peter Thiel sold as a way to upgrade 911. But what it really does is siphon data out of your phone, your camera, your text, your GPS, even if you never installed the app. A Unit 8200 project dressed up as public safety, sliding in through America's back door. And when you bring in Palantir, which is Thiel's other baby, the CIA-funded pre-crime machine already crawling through police databases, ICE raids, and DHS fusion centers, it doesn't just track what you've done, it predicts what you might do. And now out of nowhere, right after this latest Minneapolis shooting, Fox News is hyping up the next pre-crime unit, okay? Gideon AI, Israeli tech about to be used on the American public, end quote. Former IDF counter-terror guy Aaron Cohen shows up minutes after the blood dries, selling this new shiny platform that scans the entire internet for grievances, which actually means your tweets, your memes, your angry posts about gas prices or lockdowns suddenly equal terrorist intent. Pre-crime policing goes live next week. This is insane. And you see how seamless the script is? Epstein money seeded into this infrastructure. Palantir built the architecture, and Gideon is the switch they flip once the chaos hits. Problem, reaction, solution. And the solution was already sitting on the shelf. I know, what a coinky dink. They were just waiting for the perfect body count to roll it out. But the craziest part is, you all know Harari, the Oracle of Davos, just recently bragged that AI will give birth to a new form of social credit score, as I played the video earlier. Not just tracking what you buy or where you drive, but how you think, what you feel, even what your face reveals. He literally said humans are becoming hackable animals, and the next frontier isn't controlling what you do, but scoring who you are. Wrap your head around that. You post something too angry, down goes your score. You share a Bible verse they don't like, extremist flag. You hesitate when the system scans your face for behavioral threat assessments, well, you're labeled suspicious. So tie it all together, Carbine, it pulls your data, Palantir runs the pre-crime algorithm, and now Gideon scans your posts in real time. And Harari's scorecard decides if you're a citizen or a dissident. The tech is already built, people. The policy is already written. They just needed the right event to trigger it. A system that scans the internet looking for grievances so it can label you a threat before you've done anything. Isn't that crazy? So that's the thing that happened to the Connolly lady in the UK. All she did was air out grievances in a tweet. And she was a mother, so you can understand her grievances here, especially hearing about little girls getting stabbed, and she goes to prison for it. Do you understand that's coming soon to a social media platform near you? Okay. And all of the demons in charge are bragging about this system. Okay. Pre-crime policing goes live next week. Melania Trump even tweets about behavioral threat assessments in homes, schools, and online. I mean, nice way of saying surveillance everywhere. Trump then promotes Trey Gowdy's book in a tweet, while Gowdy himself joins the choir calling for gun control, pointing fingers at young white men, blaming them for it. Yet Trump promotes his book in the exact same week. And here's the part a lot of people are missing out here. I mean, if this shooting had been at a synagogue, the media would have screamed anti-Semitism. I mean, imagine at a mosque. We all know they'd be screaming Islamophobia. But it happened at a Christian school, okay? And now it's not about an attack on Christians or Catholics. No, it's just about gun control and the need for Israeli AI Palantir tech to scan tweets, to find suspected terrorists. And this isn't surprising at all. I mean, the Combat Anti-Semitism movement pushes a reported app at the same time, so anyone can snitch on your posts now. X is now warning users before they hit send on a tweet. It's warning people, like, are you sure you want to send this tweet? As if, you know where your tweet is going, straight to the ADL, so they can determine if it was anti-Semitic. And the ADL is now saying, if you say synagogue of Satan, that makes you an extremist. Okay, so basically saying anything now, 100% Christ is king, that makes you an extremist. They're even leaning on Wikipedia, putting pressure on Wikipedia to wipe out the early life section from bios, claiming it's coded hate. Yeah, why do you think that is, huh? And then we got the mayor of Minneapolis foaming at the mouth saying that prayer is worthless and nobody better dare blame the trans community, okay? While declaring the real demon here is firearms. Hold up, let's pull up this man's early life section on Wikipedia. This man is like a gayer Justin Trudeau. And oh, would you look at that? Yeah, surprising, right? Here's an interesting factoid someone mentioned on Twitter, and I did find this interesting. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota a few months ago, said, "We, as in Democrats, need to be a little more meaner and more fierce." Then 2 months later, we see this. This is quite interesting. It's like I was going over the brain-to-computer interfaces that could decode your thoughts in real time. They just need trigger words to trigger that system into recording your thoughts. I'm just wondering if there's trigger words to set these MK Ultra subjects off, because it really seems that way. Someone did post something really interesting here. Make of it what you will, but MAGA Britney says, "Are you effing kidding me? The shooter's alleged X account name was Spicy Cheese Curd." As you could see here, Officer Gas Mask. And she replies to Governor Tim Walz just a few days before the shooting, talking about pizza cheese curd tacos. This whole video he posted was about pizza cheese curd tacos, saying, "Hey, Minnesota, pizza cheese curd taco. Wisconsin, did you hear that? Pizza cheese curd taco." Repeating it over and over and over again in this video. Someone even asked, what kind of MK Ultra activation code is this? The one that makes transgenders potential mass shooters, maybe? I mean, can you put it past Tampon Tim? I wouldn't. The evil is otherworldly, people. We live in a world completely controlled by Satanist and demonic forces. And just to make sure your brain never recovers, we're now told this shooter had a YouTube channel called Robin W. that conveniently got deleted right after the attack, but not before people supposedly saw it filled with gun videos, a manifesto written in both Russian and English, and a full map of the church he ended up shooting up. The guns were painted like a damn message board. I mean, it's just crazy to go over all of the slogans, the contradictory phrases: pro-Russian, pro-trans, pro-communist, anti-Trump, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, anti-Indian. It's like the CIA just said F it and crammed every online narrative into one deranged bundle. I mean, damn, this manifesto is like a psychological operations landfill. You've got a mentally unstable trans Marxist Putin fan who hates Israel, India, Christians, and Trump. And on top of all that, he even says he hates being trans and is pissed that he was brainwashed into becoming trans. I mean, wow. Just basically every single box checked here. Scribbling in multiple languages, mixing memes and slogans that cancel each other out. It doesn't make sense because it's not meant to. You can't pin down an ideology because this wasn't ideological. It was designed to maximize confusion. A narrative Molotov cocktail thrown into the public square, meant to blind everyone. On one side, you've got left-leaning commentators racing to brand it white guy terror, framing it like a hate crime or some twisted nationalist rampage. On the other side, you've got self-identified leftist allies begging people not to blame the trans community, claiming this was all the fault of those far right-wing bullies who pushed a fragile mind too far. Meanwhile, the right is deep frying into more culture war outrage, as you can see in these headlines here. The feds not along with another urgent threat end quote, on their list. And everybody's too busy pointing fingers over identity to notice what's actually happening. Once again, this event is being used to justify the Palantir pre-crime system that they already had ready to go. While everyone's busy screaming about what label fits the shooter, the only label that matters is the one you're about to get: potential threat. That's the real takeaway. They don't care if you call it trans terror, white male rage, or Marxist meltdown. The noise is the smokescreen. Behind it, the system upgrades itself. More names on the list, more posts flagged, more speech treated like contraband. That's the formula here. Blast the public with contradictions until nothing makes sense at all. Then slide the cage around everyone in the confusion while they don't see it being built around them. And here's where things take an even darker turn. What if it's not just mental illness? What if they really do have weapons that can scramble your mind? Okay, I've joked about it before. You know, the trans do. Direct energy weapon frequencies targeting the mind, making you think you're a crazy female. Not just to make you think you're trans, but to fully fracture your identity and maybe even open a door to full-blown demonic possession. It sounds insane until you look at what's happening, because when the demons in charge want chaos, they don't just pull triggers, they hack the human brain like animals. Now take a look at this. What you're seeing here is a page pulled straight out of the shooter's manifesto. And I don't mean manifesto like he had some kind of political goal. It's just complete incoherent psychosis on paper. The page is full of paranoid language. The shooter claims they're being controlled by a higher force, something godlike, says they don't even remember doing things, like they're possessed, writing thoughts they didn't think, walking places they don't remember walking to, feeling like the only one who notices, like they're chosen, special, disconnected from their own will. That's not just mental illness, that's a description of a broken frequency, like a hijacked nervous system being piloted by something else. The shooter even mentioned at one point he might have lung cancer from vaping, just out of nowhere. The creepiest page, I have to say, is what he drew on one of the papers here. Him standing at a sink, holding a gun, facing what looks to be a demonic horned figure wearing a hoodie. The demon is doing dishes. Just another day in Hell's Kitchen, it seems. The Russian phrases scrambled around the image say, "Who? When will this end? Help me. I don't want this." And the big one at the bottom, "Kill yourself," written multiple times. There's a cartoon flower in the corner, like a child's brain trying to hold on to something innocent while being psychologically ripped apart. The reflection in the mirror looks eerily similar to Moloch, the demonic deity they used to sacrifice children to. This one Twitter post mentions symbolism will be their downfall. This is spiritual warfare, folks, a fight between good and evil. When the walls of the mind collapse, something else can walk in. So while the country was being force-fed manifesto confetti, BlackRock was quietly moving in on Minnesota. Yeah, same time. Teaming up with Elite to grab a utility for over $6 billion. Yep, that number again. That's 150,000 people's power grid now running through a private equity funnel. A few days later, Blackstone made its own play in New Mexico, dropping $11 billion on another utility. These aren't just investments, they're position plays. This is about control, and the demand isn't just from you anymore. PSEG admitted flat out that 90% of new power requests are from AI data centers, not homes, not families. The grid's future is being scaled for server barns, not your coffee maker. At the exact same time, a new crackdown kit is being unwrapped here. Pro-Palestine groups suddenly rebranded as Hamas support networks. Schools purged of propaganda in quotes. Non-profits starved out. Protests denied, surveilled, and throttled. The tools are already sharpened and waiting. FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, sounds harmless until you realize it lets the DOJ brand you a foreign agent if they decide your activism benefits another country. See how they can twist anything they want at any time? It's so flexible that even Marjorie Taylor Greene used it to call AIPAC a foreign agent and demand they register under FARA. That's the point. It's a label that can be slapped on anyone when convenient. Then you've got RICO to rope student groups, journalists, and donors into one giant criminal enterprise, material support laws to freeze your account, immigration laws to rip visas, terror designations to gag dissent entirely. And it's all sold as justice, the silent majority taking back their country, when really it's a prepackaged legal cage waiting for activation. And right on cue here, Trump steps in with his 5D chess routine. He called for the arrest of George Soros and his son Alex, branded them as psychopathic, and accused them of financing violent unrest, even saying they should face RICO charges. But that's the scam here. He pretends to fight the deep state while pushing the very same laws that will be turned on anyone who resists the system he's ushering in. Different mascot, same fist underneath. That's how the rollout works. Every chaotic shooter, every bloodied headline, every contradictory narrative, they all grease the wheels here. And once the chaos is loud enough, anything you do can be spun into a crime. Giving money becomes funding terrorism. Talking online becomes coordinated extremism. Showing up at a rally becomes planning violence. And that's when the quiet kill switches click on. Banks can debank you, platforms can mute you, schools can blacklist you, and permits vanished, watch lists expand, travel can get flagged, and they can just be like, sorry, AI flagged you. You know, that's the perfect scapegoat here. You know, AI said you're flagged. That's the you will own nothing agenda in real time. And look where the footprints lead. Right through Minnesota. BlackRock seizing utilities while Minneapolis is still taping off a Catholic church. A magazine popping up online scribbled sponsored by BlackRock. Maybe bait. I don't know. Maybe edgelord graffiti. But it doesn't matter. The symbolism writes itself, because the same class that narrates the tragedy also sends you the invoice. And the invoice always ends with your bill higher. Privatize the profits, socialize the socket, hand the priority to machines, and sell the leftover to humans as progress. That's how you build a two-tier society in live time. And here's another coincidence. Same day, I'm talking hours before the shooting, Patrick Bet-David drops his Netanyahu interview. And Netanyahu says this. This is wild. There's a sixth eye, Israel. It's a very powerful eye. You're familiar with the Five Eyes, he says. You know, all these countries that are part of the American intelligence system. Well, there's the sixth eye, Israel. It's a very powerful eye. Weird how these people are always obsessed with the six number, huh? Not rumor, branding. 5 gets upgraded to 6. I think we know what he's talking about when he's talking about the sixth eye, okay? The all-seeing Zionist eye, he meant. And check out what Netanyahu says right here.
After all, our NSA, which is called Unit A200, it's pretty big. How big do you think it is? Well, I'll give you a hint, okay? America, the United States, is about 42 times the size of Israel in terms of population. So how much bigger do you think the American NSA is relative to the Israeli NSA? No brave people among you? 42 times? 40 times? Nah, come on. It's not 5 times, but it's not 10 times bigger. It's not even 10 times bigger. You know the Five Eyes? Israel is the sixth eye? No, Israel is the second eye. So we have a tremendous sunk investment, whether we like it or not. To survive, you know, Israel's not that big a country, but it has to have a very big defense capability.
You heard that right, people. The second eye. It's like he's having this tier system of eyes. He went from 6 to 2 and eventually 1. He's going to be the all-seeing eye. You know, this is some weird symbolic talk going on here. The predictive programming is crazy. 19 days after a Hollywood movie dropped called Weapons, a movie about 17 kids disappearing at exactly 2:17 a.m., the movie had this dream sequence in it too, where a giant AR-15 literally forms in the clouds with 217 glowing on the barrel. Then this shooting happened 19 days later in Minneapolis at a Catholic school, where 2 children died and 17 injured. 217, same number, same symbolism. Less than 3 weeks later. And the alleged shooter, a trans man named Robin Westman, who looked eerily similar to the crazy person in the movie. A script about mind control and people being turned into weapons, then a shooter whose own manifesto reads like a MK Ultra collage. The timing, the numbers, the imagery. This movie is crazy. I mean, it came out just 19 days before. So what are the odds? A film that brands 217 at the moment of disappearance, a rifle hanging over the story like a curse, and then in the real world, you got 2 dead, 17 wounded in Minneapolis days later. But get this, Trump couldn't resist patting himself on the back again for that great thing called Operation Warp Speed. You know, one of the greatest achievements ever in politics or in the military. This is in quotes, by the way. He says, because it was almost a military procedure. Isn't that cute? He basically admitted it was a military op dressed up as a health program. The crazy part is he wasn't lying. As many of us know, Pfizer and Moderna teamed up with DARPA to push out this mRNA agenda to poison people. This traces back to Pentagon's Mad Science Lab, DARPA, which was playing with gene-encoded vaccines as early as 2012. The people at Pfizer polished up what the military had already cooked up, and the end product was sold to the world by the father of the vaccine himself, Donald J. Trump. These weren't whipped up during a pandemic panic either. They were sitting on the shelf like a ready-to-go bioweapon, just waiting for the right salesman in the Oval Office to stamp it into history. You even had DARPA officers like Melinda Morton, Hamer, showing up at Pfizer's vaccine law conferences because nothing screams purely civilian medicine like uniformed military people sitting at the table. And if anyone doubts this death tech was being schemed long before COVID, look no further than a 2013 contract. DARPA handed Pfizer $7.7 million, which is, chump change for the Pentagon, to figure out how to make the human body itself manufacture antibodies on command, bypassing the messy old process of isolating antigens, which in basic words means they wanted to turn people into living petri dishes, walking, talking test subjects. Then fast forward a decade, voila, Operation Warp Speed, one of the greatest achievements. Indeed, if your idea of greatness is merging big pharma and the military into one giant syringe aimed at the health of the population, Trump bragged that even Putin praised him for Warp Speed, which lets you know that Putin is, of course, another puppet in this. Trump said Putin said, nobody could believe he pulled off something so incredible, word for word. It's unbelievable. Incredible is one word for it. And when you actually look at the numbers, it's anything but incredible, unless your main priority is to depopulate and harm people. I mean, look at this chart right here from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. It tracks Americans with disabilities age 16 and over. For years, the line bumps along pretty steady here, a slow crawl upward, nothing dramatic. Then right after 2021, the year the magic needles rolled out, you see the slope change, like basically a hockey stick right here. Disability counts explode from under 30 million to pushing 36 million in just a few years. That's millions of people suddenly unable to work, function, or live normally. You don't need to be a genius or Putin to see what happened here, okay? The greatest achievement in politics and the military, lines up perfectly with the greatest surge in disabilities ever recorded. It looks less like a miracle cure and more like a mass deployment of biochemical weapons disguised as medicine. Operation Warp Speed wasn't a moon landing, it was a missile strike aimed at the population. And the data is sitting right there in broad daylight. After calling Project Operation Warp Speed the greatest achievement ever, President Trump met with Bill Gates at the White House today. That's right, people. This is the second time the two have met since Trump's 2024 election victory. And remember, I covered this months back. They said they had a lot in common, basically on board with every single issue when it comes to vaccines. Let that sink in. Guaranteed this new meeting with Bill Gates is about the new poison death shots they have in the works. So as many of you seen, those articles that popped up saying Trump and RFK are about to pull the vaccines completely, gave people a lot of hope until the White House press secretary came out saying this.
From miscommunications or differences on vaccine policy. So I wonder if you could just say whether or not the president believes that the COVID vaccine should be available to and covered by insurance for all Americans, regardless of age and pre-existing conditions.
What I will tell you is that the FDA recently revoked the emergency use authorizations for 3 COVID vaccinations while simultaneously greenlighting 4 new COVID-19 vaccines with 2025 and 2026 formulas. The reason for the revocation of that emergency use authorization is because obviously the COVID pandemic and the public health emergency is over. But just to correct the record, because there's been a lot of misinformation on this, the FDA's decision does not affect the availability of COVID vaccines for Americans who want them. We believe in individual choice. That's a promise both the president and the secretary have made, and it's a promise they have now delivered on.
Wow, there you have it, people. 4 more new death shots for the public, you know, because it was the greatest achievement in history. So why not just carry the ball to the finish line? As you can see here, this is a great picture of Trump with all of the sheeples out here. Get your jab. I did. It's great, said the Trumpster. That's the classic play the DICs run over and over. The push and pull routine, okay? First they dangle the bait, make you think something's changing, that the tide is turning, you know, and then they backtrack real quick. Remember those stories about Trump and Netanyahu supposedly hating each other? I covered that here many times. The headline screamed, "Falling out. Trump furious. Netanyahu's finished." Okay, we really thought they had beef and they would never talk again. But, you know, for a second, people thought maybe Trump was finally breaking away from Israel's chokehold. Then the smoke cleared, and guess what happened? Trump called him a great war hero, the best man that ever lived, then bombed Iran on Israel's behalf. See how the game works? Give the crowd a little theater, then snap the leash. And they ran the same script with the vaccines. Just one day before Trump stood on stage calling Operation Warp Speed the greatest achievement since fire, the press blitzed us with headlines about how the administration might remove COVID-19 vaccines from the market. I mean, for a split second, I actually believed it. You know, I thought, wow, maybe Trump's gonna rip the poison needles off the shelves and finally admit what they've done. That would have been monumental, you know. Think about all the sheeples that would have woken up. But the very next day, he brags that the shots were the greatest achievement ever and promotes 4 more new mRNA shots for COVID. Greatest achievement of mankind, people, right up there with the wheel, you know, electricity, sliced bread. Only this invention left a trail of mass disability and death in its wake. That's not leadership, it's psychological warfare. Hope is the carrot, betrayal is the stick, and the people getting herded into the slaughterhouse with the same tired trick, okay? The Judas goat continues. And just when you think the circus couldn't get any darker, they pull the next rabbit out of the hat. Palantir just installed one of their own, Jim O'Neill, as the new CDC director. Yeah, the same Palantir that cut its teeth feeding surveillance data to the CIA and Pentagon is now officially running public health. Oh, isn't that great? O'Neill isn't a doctor, not an epidemiologist, not even a guy who ever pretended to be one. He's a career Thiel, Peter Thiel insider, former head of the Thiel Foundation, partner at Mithril Capital, and one of those Silicon Valley libertarians who's been drooling for years over the idea of ripping the FDA apart so experimental cures can be unleashed on the masses without oversight. This really seems like RFK and Donald J. Trump are teaming up to promote some kind of universal flu vaccine or something. They fired Susan Monterez, which is great, I must say. I mean, she was a clear demon too. I mean, Monterez was previously deputy director of the Advanced Research Project Agency for Health, ARPA, which was modeled after the U.S. military's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA. That's right, people. They removed her and put Peter Thiel's best friend there. They really are clearing the desk here. This is a clear Talmudic theater. They fired Susan Monterez for not falling in line. Maybe something happened behind the scenes we don't know about. And they cleared the desk and parachuted in a Palantir loyalist, which means the CDC is no longer even pretending to be about health. It's a data mining branch of the surveillance state. Every pandemic, every outbreak, every vaccine rollout from here on out will double as a field test for predictive algorithms, biometric tagging, and AI-powered health policing. Palantir doesn't build medicine. It builds targeting systems. So when their guy is steering the CDC, your medical records, your genome, your so-called immune status all become inputs for a military-grade control grid. Public health is just the costume. Underneath, it's a technocratic population management scheme where the jab and the patch or the pill isn't about curing you. It's about wiring you into their system. And remember, Palantir's only client up to 2008 was the CIA. Palantir got its funding from In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA's venture capital firm. Palantir's Gotham and Tiberius software was used to collect health data for vaccine companies. Unbelievable. Palantir went public in 2020. Oh, what a perfect year, huh? Yeah, that's crazy, folks. And I'm going to leave it right there. This is getting long. If you like what I do here, it would be greatly appreciated if you hit those links in the description. Send a one-time donation, or please, people, become a monthly subscriber on Patreon or Subscribestar. I need your help more than ever to keep this thing going. So no ads here, no big name sponsors. This is fully up to the people to support if they want to see it keep going. So I do appreciate all the people out there. Big shout out to you that do support this show. All the people that did send a one-time donation, the people that purchased the Eyes Wide Open coffee, the people that are subscribed to my Patreon and my Subscribestar. You guys are the real MVPs that keep this thing going. Please, people, send me mail. P.O. box is in the description of this video. Send me anything cool you want. Crypto people out there, wallets are in the description of this video as well. Until next week, folks. Until next time, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the Eyes is Watching channel. Signing off.